Cases that police officers refuse to talk about. Cases that doctors quietly file away, hoping no one asks questions. Cases where social workers, priests, and trained investigators all walked into a situation expecting one thing and walked out believing something they never thought possible. This is one of those cases. What happened inside a small rental home in Gary, Indiana, between 2011 and 2012 was documented, verified, and witnessed by enough credible people that it became one of the most disturbing paranormal investigations in modern American history. And the deeper you go into it, the harder it becomes to find a rational explanation. The house sat on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana, a city already shadowed by decades of economic decline and abandonment. It was a modest, two-story home. Nothing about it stood out. No history of violence, no unusual past. Just a house on a street in a struggling city. In November of 2011, LaToya Ammons moved in with her mother, Rosa Campbell, and her 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, ranging from 7 to 12 years old. LaToya was a working mother. She was not someone who chased ghost stories or sought attention. By every account of people who knew her, she was grounded, practical, and devoted to her kids. The family moved in looking for a fresh start, and for the first few weeks, that's exactly what it felt like. But something was already there, waiting. It started small, the way these things always do. In the dead of winter, massive black flies appeared on the May, screened-in porch. Not a few hundreds of them, swarming in temperatures that should have killed them instantly. LaToya swept them away. They came back. She had the porch treated. They came back again. It seemed like a nuisance at the time. Looking back, it was something else entirely. Then came the sounds. Footsteps on the stairs in the middle of the night, slow and deliberate, when everyone was accounted for and in bed. The sound of someone pacing in rooms that were empty, doors slamming on, their own in a house with no draft. And then, the shadows, dark shapes at the edges of vision there for a moment, then gone. The kind of thing you convince yourself is a trick of the light. The kind of thing you stop being able to explain after the 3rd or 4th time. LaToya's mother claimed she saw a shadowy figure walking across the living room floor one night. She watched it move from one side of the room to the other, clear enough to track with her eyes, and then it simply disappeared. Rosa Campbell was not a woman given to hysterics, but she left that room and did not go back. Alone, the family prayed. They burned oils. They tried to keep the fear from the children. But the children already knew something was wrong, and then the children became the center of it. It began with small behavioral changes, irritability, nightmares, a kind of distant, glazed look that parents recognize as wrong but can't quite name. Then came the voices. LaToya's youngest son began speaking in a voice that was not his own, low, guttural, not the voice of a child. He would snap out of it with no memory of what he'd said. Her daughter began sleepwalking in ways that terrified the household, not wandering, but moving with purpose, as if being guided somewhere. And her eldest son began having episodes where he would convulse and speak in tongues, his eyes rolling back. One night, LaToya claims she found her son levitating above his bed. She grabbed him and pulled him down. He stared at her with eyes, she said, didn't look like his. Now, before you dismiss any of this as the word of a frightened mother, understand what came next. Because this is where the case stops being a family's private ordeal and becomes something official. A registered nurse at a local hospital witnessed something during one of the children's visits that she later documented in a formal report. She saw the boy be thrown, without anyone touching him, across a room and into a wall. She was so shaken that she called for other staff. Multiple medical personnel witnessed subsequent incidents. The hospital chaplain was brought in. The boy was described as speaking in a voice that did not match a child, threatening staff, and exhibiting behavior that no one on that medical team could account for. But nothing prepared investigators for what a Department of Child Services case manager witnessed on a visit to the home. Her name was Valerie Washington, and she brought a family caseworker with her that day. What they saw inside that house has been documented in official state records and has never been fully explained. LaToya's youngest son, a small boy, was standing in the kitchen. And then, in front of both women, he walked backward up the wall. Not crawling, not climbing. He walked, feet on the wall, body horizontal, all the way to the ceiling. He then flipped over and landed on his feet. Washington reportedly grabbed the boy to steady him and immediately felt what she described as a pulsing, electric energy move through her hand and up her arm. She left the house and sat in her car, unable to speak. The responding officer, Charles Austin, a trained law enforcement professional and self-described skeptic, later stated that he felt an overwhelming, inexplicable dread the moment he stepped into that home. He documented the experience in a formal police report. He also stated that after visiting the house, he suffered nightmares for weeks. These are not fringe witnesses. These are state employees, law enforcement officers, and medical professionals, people with jobs that depend on credibility. And every single one of them filed official paperwork confirming what they saw. The children were removed from the home and placed in foster care while investigations continued. LaToya, desperate and terrified, turned to the church. A local clergyman named Reverend Michael Magano became involved after being contacted by the family. He reviewed the documentation, spoke with the witnesses, and concluded that what he was dealing with was not a psychological crisis. He petitioned the Catholic diocese for permission to perform a formal exorcism, process that is rarely granted and requires extensive verification. Permission was granted. The rituals were conducted over multiple sessions. Magino described a sense of profound oppression inside the home that began the moment he entered. He performed the rite of exorcism on LaToya herself, claiming that during the sessions, her body exhibited reactions that were physically impossible to fake, and that the atmosphere inside the home was unlike anything he had experienced in his years of ministry. He later testified to investigators that he believed multiple entities were present, not one, multiple. When the story broke nationally, the media descended on Gary, Indiana. The house on Carolina Street became infamous overnight. Journalists, paranormal investigators, and curious onlookers flooded the city, and with attention came more accounts. Neighbors who had felt uncomfortable near the property for years, a previous tenant who refused to speak on camera, a contractor who had done work on the home and refused to ever go back inside. The property was eventually purchased by filmmaker Zach Bagans, who documented his own investigation of the home. He described severe psychological episodes during filming and claimed that multiple crew members were affected by the time they left. In 2016, the house was demolished. But here is the thing about places like this: the physical structure can be torn down. The address can be erased from maps. The neighbors can move on, but the records remain. The police reports remain. The medical documentation remains. The testimonies of dozens of people who walked into that house as skeptics and came out fundamentally changed. They remain. Latoya Ammons and her children eventually rebuilt their lives. She has spoken publicly about the experience, consistently, for over a decade. Her account has never changed. The accounts of the investigators, the nurses, the officers, the caseworkers, none of them have changed either. What actually happened inside that house on Carolina Street is something that no single discipline, medicine, psychology, theology, or law enforcement has been able to definitively explain. Was it a shared, psychological event of terrifying proportions? Was it something rooted in trauma that manifested in ways science cannot yet account for? Or was it exactly what every single witness, regardless of their background or belief system, walked away believing it was? Something was in that house, something that did not want to leave. And whatever it was, it left its mark on every person who came close enough to look it in the eye. The house is gone now, but Gary, Indiana still stands. And on some nights, if you drive slowly down Carolina Street, past the empty lot where a modest two-story home once stood, locals say the air feels different there. Heavier, like something lingers where the walls used to be. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button. Share this video with a friend who loves creepy stories. And don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon, because this is just the beginning. The next story might be darker, and you won't want to miss it.